OB Recruiting Insider for the off week for Texas. They're 7-2. They just beat Vanderbilt. Enjoy your bye week, but get some recruiting information at the same time. That is your Recruiting Insider, Jason Sukamel. Remember to check out orangebloods.com. I will throw up a QR code for you as a reminder as we go into this off week. And Texas is getting ready for Georgia, and the first CFP rankings are coming out and all that stuff. Get the latest info at orangebloods.com, including the 321 article, which is where we pull a lot of info each week for the Recruiting Insider. Jason, I'm very excited about today's show because for a long time I have said until Jamarion Carlton signs his name somewhere else, I'm still thinking Texas. It sounds like the Longhorns agree with me. What's the update?
I actually thought of you when I called Jamarion Carlton this weekend or last weekend. I guess I'm not even joking, Chad. I was like, Chad is going to love this update.
Yep.
Jamarion, of course, committed to Baylor back in early to mid-June-ish. It was really a Texas-Baylor battle there going on. A couple other schools were involved too, but everybody thought for the longest time he was going to commit to Texas. Well, at the end, we started hearing, okay, this thing I think is trending Baylor's way. And sure enough, he commits to Baylor in July. Well, things have been pretty quiet, kind of, I guess, behind the scenes. I mean, there's been stuff going on, but like, kind of shame on me. I probably should have checked with Jamarion, before this last weekend. But there have been conversations with him in Texas going on behind the scenes. He did come in for that Vanderbilt game on Saturday, got to spend some time with the coaches, said he loved what he saw from the Texas defense and the defensive line. Why wouldn't you, right? Colin Simmons and that entire defensive line got after the Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, and really the entire offense getting in the backfield. So he loved what he saw from the defense, said it was good to talk to the coaches again. He is still, he said, solidly committed, right, or firmly committed to Baylor. I'm still fully committed is the quote he said.
Fully.
But he said, hey, I got a couple things I'm kind of need to think about and make sure I made the right choice. And he just said repeatedly, hey, I'm taking it day by day. So we know Texas wants another edge defender in this class. We've all been focused on Dre Quinn, a guy that decommitted from Clemson, a guy that was high on Texas before he committed to Clemson. That we kind of been focused on Dre Quinn. Well, now I think some of that focus needs to shift to Jamarion Carlton because he's obviously in the mix as well.
So just to remind everybody, in terms of the talent level and the rankings and all that, Jamarion Carlton, is he in that Richie Wesley neighborhood? Just to pick another guy that obviously Texas has committed.
No. Richie Wesley is on another level. And You've heard me say it, Chad, even when he was ranked 12th, 15th in the country. I was like, that dude's still underranked. I think he's better than that. In the recruiting services, I think have come around. They've moved him up. I think he's top 10 in the country now, top 6 or 7 maybe. Jamarion, as I look at his ranking here, the Rivals industry ranking, again, takes into account everybody's rankings. He's number 62 nationally. The highest ranking he has, Chad, is 24/7 has him number 34 nationally. But so he's a big-time player, 62 nationally. He's a guy with a lot of upside, but like by comparison's sake, he is the number 11 edge player in the country. Richie Wesley is the number 3 edge player in the country. So, this is not to downplay Jamarion Carlton's potential and his upside, but Richie Wesley is still on a little bit different level.
And how does he compare in terms of the rankings with Dre Quinn, who you just mentioned?
Much higher than Dre Quinn, actually, which,
Okay.
Dre, the recruiting services don't love Dre as much. He's a little bit smaller and compared to Jamarion and compared to Richie Wesley, but the colleges sure do. I mean, Ohio State does, Texas does, Clemson did. So, I mean, there's a lot of schools that love him more so than his ranking. But, yeah, Jamarion is higher than Dre Quinn.
Interesting. So Jamarion Carlton is still a Baylor commit, and obviously, comes in for the Vanderbilt game. We know there's 2 more coming. Any thought of Carlton maybe checking out the Arkansas or A&M games, or is he done?
It's a good question, and I need to kind of look at Baylor's schedule and see if they're on the road for. Well, I guess the A&M one wouldn't really apply, but because that's on a different day. But if Baylor's on the road when Texas hosts Arkansas, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back down. Now, I did ask him. I said, hey, do you have any plans to get back to Texas or anywhere else? And he's like, I don't really know right now. I don't have anything on the schedule right now, Jamarian said, but he didn't rule it out. He didn't say it's for sure happening. Again, he just kept saying, hey, man, I'm just kind of taking this day by day. And then that led me into the question of, okay, hey, let's fast forward, a few weeks, and you've got to make this final decision. I said, what could Texas, or he mentioned Florida State or Alabama or SMU are still talking to him. I said, what could one of those schools, including Texas, do to get you to flip your commitment? And I really believe him. He goes, I really don't know right now. He goes, it's just going to be a gut feel after I kind of sort this out and give it a little bit of time. Now, let's not be naive, Chad. NIL is going to be a big part of it. Okay.
Sure.
I think that's a big reason he chose Baylor to begin with. And that's not to say that Baylor staff didn't do a good job recruiting him and with relationships. Those things still matter. But NIL is going to be a big part of this too. If Baylor has the most attractive NIL opportunity, maybe he sticks with Baylor. I mean, who knows what's going on with their head coaching situation too. If Texas is comparable in NIL opportunities, I think Texas has a really good shot to flip him. But those are my words, not Jamarian's. He's saying, hey, I'm still solidly committed, fully committed to Baylor, and just taking this thing day by day.
One more quick question for you, but first let me look at this Baylor schedule. So, Jason, he can really do it all. When Texas plays Georgia, which is obviously a road game, Baylor hosts Utah, which is a big game in Waco. Sure. Then they're on the road for the 21st, or 22nd, rather. And then Saturday the 29th, they host Houston. So if he wanted to do
he could go Baylor, Texas, Baylor, right?
He could do really all of that. He could go see Baylor host Utah and Houston, and he could see Texas host A&M. And because Baylor's on the road, he could even come in for the Arkansas game if he wants to. So there you go.
I'm not saying that's going to happen. That's a lot of, that's 4 games, boom, 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 in a 3-week span. But, those are easy for to get to, right? He's from Temple, so it's easier for to get to Waco and even Austin. And those are good games. And, if he's truly torn, I could see him showing up at least to a couple of those games.
Yeah, Jamarian, just wear out the highways and byways. 35 really well. Get it done. Jason.
Hey, I'm just glad, and I don't mind saying, I'm glad Texas is kind of re-engaged and he's re-engaged.
Yeah.
He was always one of my favorite dudes to cover, before he committed to Baylor. I mean, he's one of those guys when he committed to Baylor, I made it a point to text him. I was like, hey, dude, congratulations. I'm happy for you. I hope you do great things at Baylor. He's just a cool guy. He's just a really solid kid. So, from a personal standpoint, I'm glad Texas is kind of back in the picture to some degree because I enjoy talking. When I talked to him on Sunday, I was like, hey, dude, man, it was good talking to you again. Good catching up, and just a real cool kid, man.
Yeah. Certainly hope the best for him no matter what he decides. And Jason, one last question here. Is this one of those guys? We've talked about so many of them, but is this one of those guys where Alan Clark is important in the discussion in terms of relationships?
Yeah, another good question. Absolutely. I asked him when he was talking about that he talks to Texas pretty much every week. I said, well, was that Coach Clark? And he said, well, not pretty much. He goes, I talked to almost the entire staff, which I thought was interesting. If he's, I don't know if offensive coaches are involved, if maybe he just meant more defensive staff. But he did specifically say, yeah, Coach Clark is probably the biggest part of that. But sounds like he talks to Sark and probably PK and kind of all these, certainly all the defensive coaches.
Interesting. All right, we got some Q&A coming up from that came in on the 321. Also, in terms of updates, and I believe this guy was also in for the Vanderbilt game, Jason. Maybe a new name for people to put in their memory banks for 2027 at quarterback. This is a name I don't believe we've discussed. Let me see if I get it right. We go in Ty Knutson on the last name.
I just called him Ty. I don't know if it's Knutson or Knutson. Knutson. So that's a good question. I need to.
Now it'd be real Southern.
I should have done that before we started the video. But yes, I was thinking Knutson. You're thinking Knutson. So I don't know.
He is from Smithson Valley, so Ty Knutson could do it. I don't know. Maybe that's it too. But Ty is the quarterback at Smithson Valley, and came in for a visit right this last weekend.
He did it in for the Vanderbilt game and came in. That was his first time to go to a Texas game. He's been talking to AJ Milwee, the Texas quarterbacks coach. This is interesting. He's got, if I look at his profile, he has offers, Chad, from, bear with me one sec, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. So he's got some Houston. I mean, he's got some good offers, right, from more regional type programs. Well, Texas has not offered him. They brought him in for the game. They told him, hey, we want to see you throw in person before we consider an offer. Well, A.J. Milwee is going to see his game this week on Thursday night, Smithson Valley plays. So A.J. Milwee is going to be there. Texas is obviously off this week. They're going to watch him play in person. If they like what they see, I'm not saying that an offer hasn't been guaranteed. It hasn't been promised. They just said, hey, we want to see you throw in person before we consider an offer. So I expect A.J. Milwee will be out there. Dude, I've seen these coaches out there before with camcorders out there, like shooting video and stuff. So they bring it back to the staff, and then they talk about it. So it's interesting. Texas, we've kind of been wondering what they're going to do at quarterback in 2027, if anything, at this point, right? Peyton Houston came off the board. Kavion Bryant committed to Texas Tech on Saturday. There really haven't been many other options that have been legitimate kind of contenders for Texas. Well, Ty Knutson now is in that consideration for a scholarship offer. I watched his film, Chad. He's got kind of early to mid-season junior film up from this year. And he's like 6'2", 180. So he's 6'2", 6'3", 202, excuse me. I guess I've seen different heights and weights for him, but 6'2" is what I'm showing. That's actually on a 24/7 profile page. You can see he's a tall, slender kid, but he's got a good frame to develop. And listen, I am not comparing him to Colt McCoy, because Colt went on to have a 12, 13-year NFL career, whatever it was. Colt was a Heisman finalist, set all kinds of records. I'm not saying that that's who Ty is, but you kind of see some similarities in his high school game to when Colt was in high school. They kind of have the same frame, the same build. He makes good reads. He's very accurate. He's a really effective runner, which people forgot how good of an athlete, or they sometimes forget how good of an athlete Colt was coming out of high school. I mean, he could run the ball. He was a good, multi-sport athlete. Ty kind of has some of that in him, man. I think he ran the 200 and he's run the 200. So he can make plays with his legs. He's accurate. He makes good, timely decisions. We'll see. We'll see if Texas offers. But I've also always thought that, hey, you got Diabell in that 2026 class. It's going to be hard to go out and get a 5-star or top 100 national quarterback to follow right behind Diabell, right behind KJ Lacey. Well, this one makes a lot of sense, right? He's a somewhat local kid, kind of under the radar. He's doesn't need to come in and probably push for a starting job right away. He's not going to be clamoring for the big spotlight necessarily. So it'll be interesting. I think if Texas offers this one might be interesting to follow.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that one. A.J. Milwee going Martin Scorsese on Ty this week at the Smithson Valley game, and then he can find out if it's Knutson or Knutson, and maybe we'll get that all figured out.
That was a fail on my part. I should have probably done some research before we started this video, because I just hadn't considered Knutson. So you might be right, Jed.
Hey, you know what? He doesn't have the offer yet. If he gets the offer, then we'll figure it out. Then we'll figure it out. A.J. Milwee is going to determine, Jason, if you need to learn the pronunciation of that kid's last name. That's the beauty of your job.
I probably could have pinged him like 10. He's super nice, super responsive kid. I could have pinged him like 10 seconds before he started and said, hey, give me the correct pronunciation. And he probably would have got back to me immediately. So one of many fails on my part. So
either way, Ty is performing this week, and we'll see if he gets the offer from Texas. So definitely a name to keep in mind in the 2027 class, because of course, Jason, just to update everybody, Kavion Bryant committed to Tech. Is that right?
Yes.
In that 27 class.
Saturday, he just did it like last Saturday evening, right. Committed to Tech. And that was kind of a long time coming. We've been expecting that one for a long time. So we've been wondering, okay, where's Texas going to pivot for 2027 at the quarterback position? Will they even take a quarterback in 2027? I mean, I think they'd like to if all things fall into place, and maybe Ty ends up being that guy.
All right, Q&A coming right up after I tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John and his crew doing great work. John and his 6 siblings and his wife, all Longhorns. He and his wife were at DKR and enjoyed the win over Vanderbilt. They're excited to see what Sark, Arch, and the improving O-line, John follows all the details, can achieve in 2 weeks at Georgia. Meanwhile, John wants to celebrate the 4-game SEC winning streak by offering all OB Live fans that free 90-minute private consultation. Learn how working with a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. 972-707-4900 or go to longhornwealth.net. We thank John and his crew for being the sponsor each and every week here on the Recruiting Insider. So we hit a couple of items from the 3-2-1. Also, as I mentioned earlier, if you check out the 3-2-1 each week, there's always more information than we can get to here in the Insider Show. And a lot of times that includes the Q&A. So we're going to jump into some of that here. But a reminder to go to orangebloods.com, get all signed up during the off week and get ready for the Georgia game, which has been set as an evening kick. I think we all knew that was coming, but now it's official. Oklahoma-Bama is midday, and Texas-Georgia is going to be a 6:30. What a day that's going to be on the 15th, man. All right, Jason, let's grab some of these Q&As. Not that you sent me this one first. I swear we're not starting with the Waxahachie guy because I wanted to. And by the way, hang on, let me get this where we can read it just a little easier, probably better like that. Yeah. Let's go. Did Snell attend the Vandy game? What NIL will it take to get Kamara and Kennedy Brown? So 3 guys to hit here.
Yeah, Snell is Jaquan Snell, the 2027 safety, top 40, 50 national type player out of Waxahachie. I still feel weird saying Waxahachie instead of Waxahachie, but
no,
Chad
you're nailing it. You're nailing it. Just push forward. I promise. They would love you. They would love you in gingerbread on the gingerbread trail. You're good.
Okay, Waxahachie. But I was told late last week that Snell was supposed to be coming to the game, but the person who told me that was like, yeah, it's probably he's supposed to come, but it's 50-50 because Jaquan changes his plans pretty frequently. And the short answer to that question is he did not come to the Vanderbilt game. He wound up not coming in, but I don't think that's all hope is lost for Texas by any means. Texas A&M is surging there. Texas needs to kind of counterpunch there. But Jaquan, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago after he went to the Texas OU game, so I guess a few weeks ago. And he told me, hey, I'm going to get down for at least one of these Texas home games. I think even at that time he mentioned Arkansas and A&M. So the Vanderbilt one would have always been kind of a bonus had he made it in for that game. I do think he'll come in for either the Arkansas game in a couple of weeks or the A&M game, Chad. But the short answer is no, he did not make it in for the Vandy game. And then the question, what NIL will it take to get Ishmael Kamara, the offensive lineman, or Kennedy Brown? Both of these guys are 5-star type players. I don't know the exact answer to that. Nobody does. Agents are involved in this but it's going to be a big number. It's going to be probably for each guy, 7 figures. They're that kind of talent. You're going to be talking, probably between 800,000 to 1.2. And then someone like Texas Tech comes in and resets the bar with just some crazy offer. It's almost impossible to predict exactly how that stuff's going to play out, but it's going to be big numbers for both guys. And can Texas get both? I don't know. Texas is in the running. They're very much in the running for both, but the idea of getting both of those dudes, that's going to be a big hit to the bankroll. And do they want to come in? Would they want to come in together? Do they want to, maybe not compete for that same spot if they're both fancying themselves as left tackles? I know a lot of people look at Ishmael Kamara and say, oh, he's an interior guy. Well, that's not how Ish views himself. That's now, his doctors are projecting him to grow and have another growth spurt where he's going to fully grow into that tackle frame. So, I don't know what the NIL will be, but it'll be a big number. It'll be around 7 figures probably for each guy. And if you're Texas, I don't know if you can get both. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but it feels like you have to get one of those dudes, okay? And then there's still some other really good offensive linemen in the state. You can go in and kind of pluck 3, 4, 5 other guys, but you have to get one of those 2 big dogs, I feel like, for this class to be a success in 2027.
And both of those guys, Kamara and Kennedy Brown, are thought of as big time, plug-in tackle kind of guys, both offensive linemen, right?
Yeah, Kennedy Brown is more of a pure tackle. He's a 5-star. He was the number 1 player in the country. I think he dropped a few spots.
Yeah.
Ishmael Kamara, finally people are starting to come around. I've been saying for 4 months, like, that dude's a 5-star. That dude's a 5-star. Well, finally, I think it was Rivals, I think, bumped him way up. So he's kind of in that 5-star discussion. Again, the recruiting services have him ranked or slotted as an interior offensive line, and he can do that, and he can do it really well. But if his body grows the way people are projecting, he probably will be a tackle, especially with his athleticism. Texas has told him they like him at tackle. So, it's kind of pick your spot there. But I mean, either way, those dudes could line up just about anywhere along the offensive line and be successful.
All right, Jason, let's go from one Brown to another, other side of the ball, plus some other stuff in this question. They're packing a lot in these questions. I like it. Any news on flipping Lamar Brown from LSU? Is it disappointing that we don't have anyone in the top 10 recruits from Texas signed yet? Texas Tech has 2. Or is this Sark's normal slow play? A lot there, too.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. I'll start with the Lamar Brown stuff. He's the defensive tackle, could be an offensive lineman who is committed to LSU. If you remember, Chad, he canceled, I believe it was a Florida State visit, took a Texas official visit in June, kind of a last-minute thing because of Le'Allen Clark, who we talked about. Everybody kind of was wondering, with the coaching shakeup at LSU, might he decommit? Would Texas get involved there? It's been pretty quiet. I mean, Lamar said, like, hey, I'm just going to take a step back, let things play out, and then I'll reassess. People that I've talked to feel like it's most likely that he sticks with LSU. I mean, you got to assume they're going to make a pretty good hire, right? They're going to hire a good defensive line coach or maybe retain who they have or whatever. But I think the odds are that Lamar sticks with LSU. If he does flip, I mean, A&M's probably the bigger threat than Texas is. I'm sure Texas is working the phones and talking to him, but there really hasn't been much news there yet. He's just kind of, like I said, he's kind of just taking a step back and letting things play out a little bit. The next question, is it disappointing that Texas doesn't have anyone of the top 10 recruits from Texas signed? Texas Tech has 2 signed. Well, to clarify, nobody's signed yet. Okay. Those are just commitments. And this question, I said, I'm assuming this person's talking about the 2027 class where Texas Tech has Tavian Bryan, who we talked about, Jalen Brewster, the defensive lineman out of Cedar Hill. Both those guys are top 10 in the state. They're both committed to Texas Tech. I mean, we're still 13 months away from when those guys can sign. So there's a lot of things that can happen with those guys and others. But he's not wrong that Texas, on those top 10, 15 guys in the state, seems to be trailing a little bit right now. And we've had this conversation every year, okay? Oh, no, Texas is starting slowly. And then they end up with a top 3 ranked class or the number 1 ranked class in the country. We've seen that happen. So I'm like, okay, no real need to panic. I mean, this staff knows what they're doing. We've seen them execute this plan before. But it does feel to me, Chad, like the recruiting landscape has shifted a little bit for this 2027 group. Guys are committing earlier. I mean, I just mentioned 2 top 10 guys committed to Tech. Schools are making aggressive NIL offers earlier. I mean, Texas Tech people wouldn't like hearing it, but that's how they're getting these guys. That's how they got Felix Ojo. I mean, come on. These guys aren't running and beating down the doors to go to Lubbock because they want to go to Texas Tech. It's because Texas Tech is putting very aggressive NIL offers on the table earlier. Texas A&M is being very aggressive very early. A&M's got a lot of momentum with some of these guys. So is a Sark's normal slow play? It is, and it's worked for him in the past. But I feel like maybe that's getting to be a little bit more dangerous than it was the past 2 or 3 years. I think Texas maybe needs to reassess and maybe try to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit earlier than they have been. Then again, I say that and watch Texas will wind up with a top 3 class, and I'll have to eat a little bit of crow. But it does feel like these other teams have said, hey, we're gonna kind of attack these guys a little bit earlier and try to get them in the fold, get some contracts out there, talk to their agents, get some things working on these dudes for 2027.
It's an interesting conversation, Jason, because in the old days, if you will, maybe just a few years ago, I remember, we'd have these thought processes of, let's say, in the Big 12 days, it was, well, if Oklahoma State or TCU shows interest early, that might matter to the kid emotionally. right? He'll say, well, they're the ones that first took a chance
First
on
one,
me.
yeah, right.
But now, Jason, it's not just that. It's not just the interest. It's a checkbook. They can show them and say, we are committed to you to this level, so that when a Texas or Bama or Georgia comes in later, yeah, they might be able to offer more money, but the kid might remember, hey, this is the first place. This is the first place I said they'd take care of my family. That's a different argument maybe than years ago.
It is. I mean, but I don't know that Texas and Bama are coming in and offering more money than what Texas Tech is offering. I mean, Texas Tech's doing some things that just like these other schools are like, all right, have at it, So
That's true.
It's just such uncharted territory. Like, I don't understand how this is all going to work. I mean, to me, what Texas Tech is doing is just like throwing a big middle finger up to the NCAA and saying, we don't care. We're going to go way above and beyond these quote unquote salary cap numbers and come do something about it. Because if they're offering the kind of money that I'm hearing they're offering to some of these elite players, I mean, their salary cap's drained. How are they going to retain their current roster and do some of this other stuff? So, are they finding ways to get these NIL deals done where they don't get audited? I don't know what's going on, but Texas Tech's making, it's a tip of the cap. It's working for them. It's working for them. So it's hard to, beat them down too much. But yeah, I mean, there is some sense of loyalty, Chad. Hey, you were my first offer. You're the first one to show me the money, right? First one to do that.
Right.
But in the end, man, the bigger number is going to matter the most,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. All right, one more Q&A before we are done. Right after I tell you about Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Remember, John's up in the Dallas area. For those of you that are Dallas Longhorn folks, he's been a part of a couple different chapters, the Dallas chapter and now the Collin County chapter. John wants to remind you, OB Live fans, if you're up in that area, reach out to John, get on the Texas X's email list for upcoming game watching events and more. Also, on a little more serious note, John wants everybody to recognize November National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. So he's encouraging all the fans to review their own long-term care protection strategies, ensure that they are protected if they or their spouse are afflicted with Alzheimer's or any other incapacitating condition. John is offering that free 90-minute private consultation to review and analyze your risk management profile and existing plans to assess how well protected you and your family are from the financial ravages that often accompany battling such debilitating cognitive medical conditions. So check out that free 90-minute private consultation by calling 972-707-4900 or go online to longhornwealth.net. Again, we appreciate John and his crew for their sponsorship each and every week. All right, Jason, for this last one, we will head partially to ACC country, Dallas, Texas. Max Wright, thoughts on Max telling rivals that the recruiting battle between Texas and SMU is getting pretty close, despite being committed to Texas. Oh, this feels like it's an old Southwest Conference story. What do we need to know, Jason?
This one is kind of interesting to me on a few different levels. Okay, so Max Wright, offensive lineman out of Melissa, committed to Texas very early. I've talked to Max a bunch, and he's on my call list for tonight. So keep an eye on Orange Bloods. Those of you who are watching this, we should have a pretty thorough report from Max in the coming days. But he's been so solid to Texas. And Max has always been like, he's a no BS kind of guy, Chad. He's like, man, I'm not doing all these games and hat games. And, I'm loyal to Texas. They're loyal to me. Well, he suddenly shows up at SMU's game last week against Miami, right? Nice big win for SMU.
Yeah.
And he told Sam Spiegelman from Rivals, SMU's been working him hard. They've been talking to him and his agent, and it's made it a very close race. And I'm like, hold on, like, Max, you've been so solid. Like, where did this bubble up from? But Chad, he also hasn't been to a Texas game this year. He's coming in for the Arkansas game. People I've seen other people saying, oh, he's going to this game and that game and this game and that game. No, he never was. He was never going to Texas OU. His plan was always to come to the Arkansas game. So Texas will get him back on campus in a couple weeks. We'll see what happens there. Like, I don't have a great feel. I'm like, did Texas kind of leave the door open a little bit for SMU to come in there by maybe not communicating I don't know, because they can't afford to not sign Max Wright. I mean, Texas needs offensive tackle and offensive line help. So,
Yeah.
Max needs to be a priority. So, they've just got to get him back in for Arkansas and just remind him, like, hey, dude, remember, it's been a while since you've been here, but let's remind you of why you chose Texas to begin with.
Yeah.
And
And
listen,
he did do the official visit and the
Yep,
process. Like, he's done all that, right?
done all that, correct. And SMU is, we mentioned Texas Tech. They're a school that has deep NIL pockets. So there's so many different ways this could be going, Chad. It's like, okay, is he using this as leverage to get more NIL money out of Texas? Is SMU just going to make him a sweet offer that's too good for him to refuse? Again, today's day and age, there's so much crap going on behind the scenes, including agents who are involved in some of these decisions and conversations. So, I know Max really likes Texas. He loves Coach Flood. Texas was his first big offer. Kind of talked about that. He's been really happy about being a Texas Longhorn commitment. He's been excited about it. But these are also business decisions at this point, right? So I get it. If SMU is making a strong push and saying, hey, we can do this, this, and this for you, that maybe is above and beyond what Texas is doing, you got to at least listen to them, okay? So we'll see how this plays out over the next few weeks. I think he'll stick with Texas just because I've talked to Max probably 10 times, and every time I do, he's like, dude, I don't even care what these other schools are saying. I love my decision to go to Texas, blah, blah, blah. So, but in the last few weeks, something changed, and now SMU is really making this one interesting.
Yeah, and also for those that missed the detail, not only did they get the win against Miami, but early Saturday morning, it was reported Rhett Lashley, speaking of leverage, Rhett Lashley able to use the leverage of all these coaching firings to say, I'm staying right here in Dallas. So, Jason, to Max or anybody else, he's able to say during a recruiting visit now, hey, I'm staying. This is where I want to be.
Yep.
I'm not headed to one of all these jobs that are out there. I'm staying right here in the ACC, and we're going to try to get to the playoff again. I still can't believe they were there last year, but they were. I mean, he's been building something there, and now he's staying for presumably staying for longer.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Max is an intelligent kid. That'll factor into his decision. I mean, we're not expecting Sark to go anywhere either, but if the NFL comes calling or whatever, I mean, we've heard rumors this year about Sark, which Sark, he shot those down, of course. But yeah, just getting a fresh contract extension, you pretty much assume he's going to be there for a while, right?
Yeah, we obviously understand what's going on in the state this year, but I guess think about it from the first 12-team playoff. If you're in the state of Texas and you're trying to decide between playoff teams, this is your choice, right? It's Texas or SMU. Both teams going to the playoff in that first year. So we'll keep an eye on Max Wright. And again, make sure you keep an eye on orangebloods.com for the rest of the 3-2-1 article. There's still other stuff in there. Jason's full SEC rankings, Texas moving up after the win over Vanderbilt. Who does Jason have on top of his SEC rankings this week? Where does Texas fit in? You can go check all that out at orangebloods.com as well. All right, Jason, we've hit a lot, covered a lot of ground today. Anything else before we close up?
No, I'll just, like I say, on Orange Bloods, we'll have Rumor Mill, Truths and Lies, obviously War Room. So we'll have other recruiting notes in there that we didn't get to today. So keep an eye on Orange Bloods. We'll have it all covered for you.
Yep. And thank you guys for checking us out. Of course, we debut Wednesdays at 10 a.m. If you're listening to us in that slot, we appreciate you, or whenever you check it out. I've talked to people in the last few weeks that they've got all their different times of listening, and we know we get a lot of those views after everything, debuts or goes live. So thank you for making us part of your world whenever you do that. We'll be back next week, and it'll be a slightly big week. Texas getting ready to play Georgia. Jason will have all the information that you need in terms of recruiting, and as those visits continue to get set up for the Arkansas game and the A&M game that, of course, round out the schedule. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Longhorn Wealth Management Group for sponsoring. This is Orange Bloods Live. Take care. See ya.